Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for coming. So today we're going to do a video on Clara Harris, which I had heard about before. It happened a while ago, but I didn't know all the details of the case, so I kind of wanted to dive a little bit deeper into this one just to find out all the ins and outs because it's pretty interesting. I remember when I heard about it, when it initially happened, it was, in the newspaper, in the news. Back when people used to read the newspaper. And it was pretty salacious and interesting just because of the people involved, what their stature is, what they did for a living. So I just wanted to take a little bit of extra time today and dive a little bit deeper into this one and just find out all the details because I vaguely remember just bits and pieces. But when I started to do some research on it, I found there was a lot of things that I just didn't know. Clara Harris was an immigrant from Colombia who came to the U.S. and found a lot of success. When she got here, she won a local beauty pageant. She also became a dentist, which, coming from a real poor place like Colombia, I think coming and moving to the U.S., moving on the outskirts of Houston, she was able to find the American dream. She came here and made the most of her opportunity. She obviously was a pretty young woman, winning the beauty contest, and then also going on to become a dentist. She also must have been very smart. So she made most of her opportunity. After becoming a successful dentist in the surrounding Houston area, Clara Harris began dating an orthodontist named David Harris. And the two eventually married on Valentine's Day of 1992. 6 years after marrying, Clara gave birth to twin boys in 1998, and the couple was also raising David's daughter Lindsay from a previous relationship. So you have Clara, who's a dentist, and David, who's an orthodontist, and the two were able to get together, and after they became married, were able to create a thriving dental practice in the surrounding Houston area containing multiple different locations. I think if you look at this from the outside, people like this had it all. They had a very nice home, nice cars. They had their family. David had his daughter with them. They had the twin sons. Great job, great family, great life. However, as we all know, that doesn't translate into happiness. The outside, everybody looks at them and goes, "Gosh, man, they're great. They've got everything." But that's not always the case. You don't always know the inner workings of the relationship and the people we're talking about. A lot of the shows that I watch, on the ID channel or Oxygen channel, a lot of them are from lovers, right? From either married couples, boyfriend, girlfriend. And typically, it's one of two reasons as to why somebody ends up dead in this situation. One, there always seems to be an insurance claim, or somebody's got a insurance policy out on the other one, and they end up killing them for the money. The other one is jealousy. They suspect somebody's cheating, or they find out they're cheating, and they murder them because of this. Which I can't understand. The option here is, at least in the latter situation, when you find out your significant other's cheating on you or you're just not happy and you want out of the relationship, you can get a divorce. I mean, you don't have to kill the other individual to get out of that relationship or situation. That's just something that I can't get. When somebody considers, oh, well, I'll kill them is a better option than getting a divorce. Divorce sucks. We all know that, especially when you have kids together, you have a lot of things together, home, cars, accounts. It's a pain in the ass. We all know that. However, killing another human should never be an easier solution. I don't know if these people think that, oh, I'll kill them, I'll be really smart, get away with it. Typically doesn't work out like that. You tend to end up on a show like Snapped. So when I look at it, I go the potential of going through the divorce, having to separate everything. We all know the only people who really win in divorce is lawyers. You're going to spend a lot of the money that you're dividing up amongst your lawyers. I understand all that. But I mean, come on, you can potentially on one side have to go through all that, pay all that money, and then go your separate way. Or the other alternative is kill them, you get everything, but you could potentially go to prison for a long time. Those two just don't compute to me. I don't see where there's a real option to make. Of course, the other, like I was saying, the other one with insurance claims, that's just pure greed. Oh, hey, honey, let me get a life insurance policy for $500,000 on you. Okay, yeah, that's okay, great. Oh, it's not that much a month. 2 weeks later, they end up dead. I guess it's time for me to go ahead and put another disclaimer up here. Hey, if you're in a bad relationship and you're not happy, or you find out your significant other's cheating on you, please don't kill them and murder them. I know it's going to be a pain, but go ahead and go through that divorce. Okay, so in 2002, Clara began to suspect David of cheating on her. It seems like there had been whispers around the offices that they both owned that David was potentially having an affair. I guess they weren't too secretive about it. It was with his secretary. So I guess they were, conveniently gone together a lot for probably long periods of time in the workplace. Yeah, I've seen people that have done that as well. And no matter how sneaky you think you are or what you think you're doing, people notice. They do. And they know. You may not think they know, or you may think you're really slick and getting away with it, but trust me, they know. After Clara's suspicions, things kind of ramped up when one of her coworkers at the dental office told her that David was having an affair with his secretary. According to Clara, she confronted David about the affair, and he admitted to it and eventually decided that their relationship and their marriage was more important than continuing on the affair with his secretary, and said that he would break things off with her. One of the other kind of sad details about the story is apparently David's own daughter and Clara's stepdaughter, Lindsay, was aware of the affair as well. I don't know if she had heard from other people, or she just kind of could tell, Dad was gone a lot, or she had heard things. But apparently, when Clara brought it up to her, she didn't seem too surprised about it. When Clara found out that David was having the affair, it hurt her. And she felt like maybe she was lacking something, or she wasn't doing something. And David had seemed to allude to this by saying that his secretary, Gail, had no body fat, she was attractive. And so that made Clara feel like, she needed to do something. So she said that she hired a personal trainer. She put down a huge deposit on plastic surgery. That she started, working out a lot and make herself more attractive to David in the hopes that he wouldn't stray again. Clara even went as far as to quitting the dental practice altogether. She told everybody she was going to quit. She was retiring because she wanted to focus more on her marriage and her family to try to help save things. Clara was a bit skeptical that David would actually end the affair with his secretary, Gail, so she hired a private detective to follow him around and make sure that he stuck to his word and that he did what he said he was going to do, which I find kind of funny. Look, I'll go ahead and say it. One of my guilty pleasures, I love the show Cheaters. I've seen just about every episode. You see these guys in these little cars like sneaking around, videotaping them. And so that's kind of what I'm picturing, this guy just sitting for hours outside of their home and practice with a video camera, trying to, follow his tracks and see if he could catch him in the act. And, well, sadly in this story, hiring that private detective paid off for Clara because David didn't break it off. After Clara and David had tried to reconcile, and David promised that he was going to give up the affair with Gail, he said to Clara one night, I'm going to go have dinner with Gail. I'm going to break it off, tell her that we can't be together anymore, so that him and Clara could then move on with their relationship. Well, this is still during the same time period that Clara hired the detective agency to follow him around. So the private detective was aware of what was supposed to be going on. So he went and followed David to the restaurant that they were supposed to be at to make sure that everything went down as planned. However, David and Gail did not go to a restaurant. David apparently had no intentions of going that night to break it off with Gail. As a matter of fact, the private investigator called Clara and told her that he followed David and Gail to the same hotel that David had married Clara at 10 years earlier. Naturally, this infuriated Clara. She was not expecting this. When you go expecting that your husband's going to go break things off with his mistress, and then you have somebody else calling you going, well, actually, they're going to the same hotel that you married your husband at 10 years ago, and I don't think a hotel visit is necessarily going to lead to any sort of breakup. She became infuriated, and so she immediately grabbed her stepdaughter Lindsay that was with her and took off to the hotel that they were at. Clara, kind of brilliantly, came up with a plan to get David and Gail to come out of the hotel. Clara had Lindsay place a call to David and tell him that one of the twins was very, very sick and that he needed to come home right away. At that point, Clara and Lindsay went ahead and went into the hotel lobby and basically waited for David and Gail to come down, which eventually transpired. They came out of the hotel elevator hand in hand and were confronted by Clara and Lindsay. I guess at this point, Clara was not in the mood for talking in any sort of confrontation. She just straight went after Gail and fought with her until the hotel security ushered Clara out. You think your husband's going to break it off. You find out they're going to this hotel, which has sentimental value to you because you got married to your husband there. And then the private investigator calls and says, nope, they're in the hotel and they've gone up to a room. And then to get them back down, and when they come out, I mean, I can understand the amount of rage and frustration she must have had with this whole situation. And so to me, it's a bit understandable for her emotions to get the best of her, and she just attacked Gail. However, one thing that I would say I would do a little bit differently if I was her, I would have hit David first and then Gail. I mean, obviously, this is not one of those situations where the mistress or the other person doesn't know that this guy is married. She knows that David's married to Clara. I mean, she worked in the office, so she's very well aware of everything. So she's a willing participant in this entire scenario. So, Clara going after her, can't feel sorry for Gail. If you have an affair with a married man, you have to expect anything that comes along with that, which might be that the wife gets really angry and comes after you. After security took Clara out to her Mercedes-Benz that was in the parking lot, they gave it a little bit of time before David and Gail left. I think they wanted to make sure that Clara was gone, the confrontation was over, so that they could go on their way as well. However, whenever David and Gail left the hotel lobby and walked outside, Clara turned on her Mercedes-Benz and drove towards them. And that ended up resulting in David being run over. However, according to most of the reports of witnesses, David was not ran over one time. He was ran over a total of 3 times. This was a circular driveway, so it's not like this could really be accidental. I mean, if you're driving in circles, you're driving over what feels like a speed bump where there is no speed bump. That's obviously an issue, especially when it came to her defense. And the most disturbing thing about this is Lindsay, David's daughter, was in the passenger seat and could be heard screaming, you ran over my dad, stop. I don't even want to think about how traumatizing that must have been to a teenage girl to be in the car when her stepmother essentially runs over and murders her father. It's really a sad thing to think about. She was there for that entire confrontation. And then on top of that, the private investigator was still there in the parking lot and caught the entire incident on camera. So there was actual camera evidence of Clara. Now, it was very dark at night, so it was not exactly conclusive in the camera evidence. However, you could see the car going in the circular driveway and essentially looked like it was hitting a speed bump. But however, sadly, that was David she was running over. David was pronounced dead at the scene, and Clara was then subsequently arrested and charged with first-degree murder. Clara's defense was that she didn't see David. I mean, she saw them leaving the lobby. However, when she drove her car up, she said she just wanted to confront him, and their car was actually parked in the circular driveway, that they were going to walk to their vehicle so that they could leave. And she claims she couldn't see him on the side of the vehicle, accidentally hit him. But to me, that story doesn't hold much water. I mean, you see the guy leaving, you're in a rage, you drive up to confront him, you don't see him, and you accidentally hit him, and then you continue to drive around in a circular driveway and again hit a non-existent speed bump. And you've got headlights and you can't see it. I mean, maybe she was just in a blind rage, but I mean, the defense that she didn't know he was there, she didn't know she hit him, just to me, I just don't see it as any sort of possibility. Strangely enough, during the trial, David's parents and brother actually testified on Clara's behalf. David's mother testified that they had a very loving relationship towards each other and they were very committed to each other. And David's brother, Gerald, testified that Clara was one of the nicest people he knew and one of the most law-abiding people that he had known in his life. I guess can go to show, I mean, this person probably was, very law-abiding. Clara was probably a really nice person, but I think whenever she found out that David was having the affair, and especially in the heat of the moment, it just caused her to lose it. And she just didn't know how to deal with that. And so she ended up, unfortunately, killing David as a result. That's the thing. I think if you're presented with a situation, you may say, oh, well, I would do this or I would do that. However, you never really know until you get in that situation. But having said all that, I will say, even if your spouse or significant other is cheating on you, running them over multiple times is way extreme. Not anything the majority of us would ever consider doing. So that's kind of where that line gets drawn. My guess is that the parents and brother of David really believed Clara when she said, I didn't do this on purpose. I really didn't mean for this to happen. It was all an accident. That's the only reason I can think that they would actually testify on her behalf. Clara then said that, she never meant to hurt David, that when she drove her car up there, she just wanted to confront him, never saw him. But yet she did say that she wanted to separate David from Gail. Now, in your car, I don't know how you're going to separate one person from another. Obviously she was really mad. She didn't want to see them together. She didn't want them to leave together. I get that. However, if you're in a car, you're driving it, and you're trying to separate one person from another person, I don't know how you do that without driving straight towards them. And I mean, she did separate David from Gail, but David ends up dead in the circular driveway of a hotel. Clara did say that she wanted to hurt David, but she said she didn't want to hurt him physically, that she just wanted to hurt him emotionally the same way that she had been hurt. However, Lindsay testified at the trial that right before Clara took off, that Clara said, I'm going to hit him. A lot of times in these cases, what you'll find is the people, once they know that the authorities found that they're responsible, what they'll do is say, oh, I didn't remember, or I blacked out, things like this. So Clara did something kind of similar. She said the entire situation seemed like a dream, kind of like a out-of-body experience. However, she did admit that she remembered while she was driving around that her stepdaughter continually kept yelling at her to stop. In 2003, the jury eventually found her guilty of the sudden passion murder of her husband, David. And she was sentenced to the maximum for that crime, which is 20 years in prison. Clara was also a model prisoner throughout serving her sentence. and therefore she was released on parole on May 11th of 2018. I'll be honest, stories like this give me conflicting thoughts, because yes, this person was, I mean, they flew off the handle when they found out that, her spouse was continuing to cheat when he, said he was going to stop. And she became enraged. And I mean, we can all understand becoming furious or enraged when something terrible happens at the spur of the moment, right? Um, However, most of us would never go off and kill anybody. And then I look at the judicial system and say, okay, well, this person killed someone the same way that somebody planned to kill someone. At the end of the day, someone's dead. So why does one person get life in prison without the possibility of parole, and then the other person ends up serving 15 years and getting out on parole for doing the exact same thing? I mean, whether it was premeditated or whether it was spur of the moment because you got upset, I mean, you still took somebody's life. Those kind of things I have to really think about and ponder, because I don't know, at the end of the day, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. You still killed somebody, right? You still took a human life. To the degree that you did it, does it really matter? Some people say yes, some people say no. I'm not really sure at the end of the day how I come out on it yet. I think I tend to lean more towards, if you take a life, no matter what the circumstances, you should give up your own life. Not necessarily the death penalty or anything like that, but you should be locked up. And for more than 15 years, that Lindsay doesn't have a father anymore. Her twin sons don't have a father anymore. David is no longer alive. Why is she able to do that and then get out 15 years later and continue to live her own life when she's destroyed so many other people's lives? Sometimes things like that they just don't sit well with me. Yes, it was a sudden passion crime, sudden passion murder. She did it in the heat of the moment. But I don't know that I can equate that to having as big of a difference from somebody who woke up and said, I'm going to go kill this person, and went out and killed them. I just don't think there's a big enough gap where one person gets out after 10, 15 years and the other person has no chance to ever get out. I don't know where I really come out on that one, but I don't know that I agree with the current way everything is set up and how big of a gap there is in the penalties that can be given. Thank you very much for watching the video. If you made it to this point, I really appreciate it. You are awesome. And if you wouldn't mind, please hit the like button, subscribe for more videos to come in the future. Again, thank you very much, and I hope you all take care, be safe, and have a great afternoon.